Sal. Welcome to Betwixt the Shadows. This week we have our awesome guest host is in this week. We've got Mia with us, and Renee is on a little love crusade with her boyfriend, and they're just having some time away. So with that, we are here in our own studios from our home. I think this is going to be actually one of the last times we are going to be shooting like this, because we are going to try to get you guys back on the real format with the show. But ladies and gentlemen, Mia, how's it going?
Yay! I can't wait till I can be back in the studio with you, Sal. It's so much fun.
Yeah, it'd be neat if we can get things going. Actually, Renee and I were talking about actually having you on as a host, so we can, not as a host, as a guest.
Yay! But what would I do as a guest?
Huh?
What would I do as a guest? I think I've outworn my welcome.
No. Well, be a guest. You haven't got a chance to work. Have you been on with Renee?
No.
No.
Yeah, well, I've spoken with Renee and other platforms.
No, but I mean on the show.
Not on this one.
No.
It'll be exciting.
Yeah, so we'll bring you in for that. So tonight is a pretty chill evening. But I mean, a lot's going on. This has been a pretty weird couple of weeks. Lots of changes going on, adjustments. Tonight is Depnon. We can discuss Depnon a little bit. I think that would be a really cool little topic of discussion. And we haven't really discussed Hecate specifically, or dedicated a show to her, and I really can't do that without Renee. But we can definitely discuss some of her perspectives on it, because I know you work with her as well, and and just how she is really showing up a lot more today in recent times. She definitely has a resurgence going on, and so we can definitely go over that. But before we get into the meat of our discussions, what's going on with you this week? How have you been? How's everything in the herbological magical world of me?
I guess we're all having our personal time. So it's like, it's so nice to be here with you now, because I don't have to think about all the crazy personal things that have been happening. And it's just nice to be able to focus on, something more magical, spiritual, herbs, whatever. It's just, it's nice to get out of that. Every now and then I'll get some questions about herbs from the store. So I love that. I loved getting to be in the store this week. And what I like about that is that it kind of makes me focus on what the planets mean, because you have on your little planet or big planet board over by the candle bar, you have like general words, and sometimes they can flow into each other. And so trying to hone that was pretty interesting to do. And also working with Hecate, like you said.
I just dropped my ring.
I
my ring.
I have a Hecate candle that got a web over the full top, and none of my other candles did. And then just on her, so that was in my working space, and then a space that I have just for Hecate, another candle did that. And I just thought that was so interesting.
That is interesting, and also because when you think of webs, what comes to mind for me are the fates, because they string the web of life, and that's what they're really known for doing. The spinners, they spin our lives in the thread of life and shorten it or lengthen it. So I think that I would definitely associate. It would be crazy if one more did it, because there's three.
Right.
There's Clotho, Lachesis, and Atropos. So Clotho is the one that creates the web, or this creates the string. And then Lachesis extends the string. And then at points in one's life, Lachesis gives that to the human and allows them to grow their string, having their own, influence on it. And then it's also said that in the end, Atropos cuts it, and that's where your life ends. And so also, the fate of things are important, and if you especially look at it from an esoteric standpoint. So looking at those candles, to Hecate having web on them, I think that's kind of a neat thing. I don't read that as you shouldn't be lighting the candle. It definitely, that's how I imagine some people would see it, like it's stopping you. But to me, it's just them, connecting, and maybe, it might be that you might want to look into the fates and start, maybe working with them a little bit. It's pretty amazing. They're pretty amazing. And actually in the Nordic pantheon, they have their own set of fates. They're called the Norns. It's Norns, and they are the three sisters of fate as well. It's the same exact concept, only they're called the Norns in that pantheon.
Well, in my life, there's a lot of like beginnings and births, and there's a lot of death. So, it's just sometimes it feels a little ominous. Like this is telling me like, here's the web, and so there's going to be death, but but that's only because of where I am right now in the world.
Yeah.
Usually when I see webs, I'm excited because that means creativity. So
that's a great way of looking at it for sure. I've had death like that. It's been really weird. Everybody knows, and our crew knows, but just for the people out there know, I lost my lizard this week. I had her almost 11 years. Her name is Khaleesi. She was a Nile monitor lizard. And I came in and she had passed away. And actually you came in and filled in for me because I was kind of a wreck that day. And so I have to take her to the crossroads tonight during my Deathnon and bury her, and this is also the time to connect with what we call the restless dead, because the restless dead walk with Hecate at night. And so tonight, Khaleesi will be walking with them, and it's kind of crazy because December 5th, Annie died, which was my wife's dog, and was very much a huge part of the shop. Annie was as much the crooked path as me. And she was very loved by everybody that met her. And she passed away abruptly. And then, it was really crazy because more times than not, Annie and Khaleesi would meet at the glass window to her tank, and they would just do this dance and look at each other. And for the last 2 weeks, Khaleesi has been like scratching at the glass.
I know. I've seen that. I thought that was strange because I don't remember her doing that before.
She was like, but it's like she was looking for Annie, and then she abruptly died. And it's really weird because I posted some video of Annie and Khaleesi, because I have so many videos of them and pictures of them in the shop. And the one that I posted without even realizing it was Annie and Khaleesi at the tank. And then they both look right at us. And now they're both gone and they're with each other. They've parted the veil, and it's really hard week, losing her.
A lot of people ask for Khaleesi too. Like people would ask for Annie, but when I'm in the store, a lot of people ask for Khaleesi as well. They're always looking in the glass and seeing what's going on with her. So, it was kind of heartbreaking because one of her favorite fans, that woman that just loves Khaleesi, she just
popped in and said hi. Yeah.
Yeah.
She was a mess. And it was really creepy because Sunday or Saturday, she had come in and she went over and spent time with her. So this woman is, I don't want to say she's a transient, but she's in a home for sober people. She's in a space in her life dealing with her, trying to get back to life anyways. But she's known around the neighborhood. She's kind, she's kind of a little in her own world, but we let her come in and she would just come in and spend time with Khaleesi all the time. And Saturday of last week, she's like, Khaleesi's off today. Something's wrong with her. She's not happy. And then she died.
I know.
It's just like, holy shit. And then she came back when you were covering for me and she flipped
I
out.
know. Well, I was there on that Saturday too, and I saw her come in, and and then I just thought it was interesting. She came back so soon, and that's just, there's
Yeah.
just.
She's like, something's wrong with her. And then she left here and she's like, all my friends are dying. And she's like, tears were running off her face. And she's like, I can't deal with her not being here. And she left. So it's just been really hard. It definitely, dealing with death is never good. And, especially, with beings that are in our lives, especially, the older they get. I've got a 95-year-old mother. And, I was dealing with her, yesterday she called me like 400 times to ask me if I was okay. That's what she does. But I get so mad because like I was driving, I was on the freeway in traffic and she calls me and I know it's her. And then she asks me again. I'm like, fuck, leave me alone. I'm fine. And then when I get home, I'm like, wow, you can't do that because at any, she's 95. She's my mother.
I know, but that goes for anyone. I mean, you would have thought your mom would have passed away several times next to all your friends that were in their 30s and 20s and however 40s. And, so it's like we don't know, how it all works. We just need to embrace what we can. And I'm sure your rituals help. Like Depnon, that's a ritual to help. I actually do pretty well with death because I've had so much of it. I'm not good leading up to death, but once death is there, I know how to help people and I know how to honor people that have passed. And I feel like you can almost have a different type of relationship that you can work on with people that are gone. It's just that in-between stage. I'm not good with in-between stages. Yeah. I'm good with being alive. Yeah. And I'm good with the afterworld, but anything in between, but I guess that's where you grow, is those in-between stages.
Yeah. Actually, Grace was just asking a question. She's like, does practicing the craft help with dealing with death? No more than I think any other, spirituality or philosophy. But I mean, does it come up a lot? Sure. I mean, especially, for me, Hecate is very much a goddess of death. She's a goddess of, the other side and the restless dead and connecting to people that are no longer there. And also, when I do my rituals every night and I have very specific things that I say because of the prayers that I say. And they're very much, about the restless dead and my sacred ancestors and asking for their blessing every night. But it's really intense. It's a very intense thing.
I don't think mainstream religions really focus on death that much. I think that witchcraft does focus more on the changes and of being aware of death and rebirth and growth and the changing of seasons and
life
cycles. And maybe in the beginning stages of other religions, that's where it started, but that's not where we are now. I don't feel like religions really give much to death because everyone wants to be alive. No one wants to face death. So, I do feel like, working with Hecate, working in witchcraft, you do get to grow that part of you. It may hurt or it may seem spooky to people, but I do feel like it brings an opportunity to grow and to have lessons for yourself.
And it's so weird microcosmically when you think about death. When you think about it in the fashion of self, that someday we won't be here. I've been thinking about it so much. I think because remember my friend died in May. Mm-hmm. and abruptly, and he was like your age actually, and just out of nowhere he gets hit on his motorcycle and dies. Yeah. And I think about him up on that hill in that box right now, not far from the store, but he's not there. He's really not there. I'm not burying Khaleesi tonight. I'm burying her vessel.
Right.
But it's weird to know that Joe doesn't exist anymore in the physical sense. Freddie doesn't exist anymore. And everybody says, oh, well, they exist in your mind and they exist in your heart. But that's different. It's a different form of existence,
Well, that's why I love being creative, because I feel like when when you do music, like how many artists do we know that stay alive to us because we still get to hear them. You still get to play Prince whenever you want. You still get to hear his voice. You still get to hear that creativity. It's like, that's why being creative is so important, and sharing and connecting with people, because it keeps you alive, just not only in the mind, but kind of in the air.
Yeah, it's true. It's the fact is the fact that someday, whether we believe in reincarnation or the soul moving on is not the point here. The point is, physically, someday we won't be here anymore. And
someday the earth might not be here anymore. Like, look how fragile we have this planet. It's just, and it's fragile, and the whole universe and scope of things. It's just amazing that these planets have all stayed put, and we still have life here. Like,
it's true.
Yeah.
Very true. Yeah. So somebody just asked, Sal, didn't you do a ritual recently with yellow flowers? That was actually a ritual for someone that was terminal but was not passing yet, and it was a ritual that I did for a client to help ease suffering while they're here. So, but that's what that one was for. But I did do one, and then they said that the Jewish religion has Shiva ritual when someone close dies.
Right, but that's when someone dies. But I'm saying, like, we think about death, I feel like, more often than the average person, because we're working with, the dark moon, and we're working with, okay, winter, that's a death time, and we're really focusing on those moments and that energy, whereas other people don't.
He's totally yawning behind you. He's like,
shut up, Mom, you're boring.
That's great. But yeah, well, I mean, it's not like we're morbid, but I definitely believe that in witchcraft, we acknowledge and hold death just as equally as we hold life.
Right.
Magically, because what is the magic? Excuse me, I'm hungry.
Now you're yawning.
Your dog just did that to me. But magically, I think that death is definitely part of the work.
Yeah.
And so yeah. So anyways, tonight is Deppnon. It is the supper of the dead. It is the time when you pay your respects to Hecate and say a prayer to her or an incantation if you have one. I do very specific things on this night. I light a specific black candle, and I leave certain foods at the crossroads that I work in. The crossroads, in ancient Greece, they were very scary places in the past. They were places where they say the dead would meet the living. They said that this is also where deviates and people of ill repute in ancient times would gather. And so there was
that's where I'd be.
Yeah, this is where they put their offerings to Hecate back then. And it's just, I think it's important that we acknowledge that time. I can't imagine a dark moon without her.
So there's a lot of people that I know that even have taken classes with you, and and are interested in Hecate, that are a little frightened of Hecate. And I'm wondering that if people are new with Hecate, should they be doing Depnon and things like that? Or is that more for someone that has really immersed themselves with her and has a strong, like, you know how some people like to dabble and kind of figure out what they're into?
Sure.
Is that a dabbling kind of thing, or is
It's
that like you
definitely not
better
a
mean business?
dabbling thing. It's a little more dedicated than that. But I'm reading Libra Cathonia right now, which is an absolutely amazing book by Jeff Cullen. I'm very happy. I'm on chapter 6 right now with it. Now, as you know, I'm a practice Hecatean witch, but he completely makes it so easy to understand and building what he calls your own witch cult. And
Interesting.
yeah, and it's actually really well done. And he talks about that. You can look at, work with Hecate in the aspect of Hecate that you are connected to. Maybe it's Hecate Phosphoros, maybe the light bearer, shining light. And it can always be Hecate Phosphoros that you choose to work with. Maybe it's Hecate Soitera, which is the world savior perspectives on Hecate. This would be great for someone that wants to work with Hecate, but that is all about the preservation of the earth and world peace, and some of the more luminescent solar perspectives on Hecate. So, and if you fall into that realm, then work with her then.
But how does someone know that's new? That because a lot of people that are new kind of are gravitated to the store and have this interest. How do they know? How do they learn about all these different Hecates?
So what I would tell you to do is you don't need to come to my store or anybody's store to do that. You definitely could research the internet. This is where the internet is good, and I don't always condone it, but look up the epithets of Hecate. That's EPTH or EPETHETS epithets. Okay, and actually there was they just posted a URL. But when you look up an epithet is essentially like a describing word, and it's just not Hecate. So this is where you have, like, back in ancient times, you have Peter the Great.
Mm-hmm.
That was an epithet of Peter, that king. So Peter the Great. This is how he was described. So Hecate has 40 epithets. Actually, she has more.
Wow. I didn't even realize she had that many.
40 epithets. Yeah. And it goes on. It can be the wrathful one, the fire eater, the soul eater, the savior, the light bringer, the key holder, the child birther, the serpent aspect. Hecate Drakina is the serpent perspective on her. They just keep going. And what Jeff Cullen is saying in his book is find the one that you identify with through some research and start working with that energy of her. You don't have to connect to Brimi if you don't want to.
I would think, though, the best way to learn about a deity, though, would be to put yourself in each space, each of those 40 spaces, maybe each day or a time period, just to see what it feels like, because sometimes people don't know what they need or how they're going to connect until they actually try some of them out. And sometimes
I think that if somebody's brand new, that might be a bit much to ask.
Yeah.
I would tell them to work at the key bearer perspective on her to start, and then look at another epithet and ask her to come and show that face. Take it slowly, because Hecate is very hardcore. When you work with what most people call Brimo, which in Greek is Vrimi, okay, the B is a V, like V, and the O is an I. The Vrimi aspect of Hecate is the fire perspective on her, the underworld aspect, the working with her, at the gate, dealing with the underworld. When you start going into the underworld, you're going to start dealing with the darker perspectives on her, but there's also light and darkness. You know what I mean? It's not completely specifically that one thing. But, start just looking at her words, describing her, and then, just ask for the first one and work with that for a while, and then step to the second. And, for me, I will work with her in many different aspects, but I'm a very experienced witch. Even prior to Hecate, I know how to work in different areas. And then, like, if I need to open the roadway to do work with something, I'm going to work with her in the Clidujo, perspective, the key bearer aspect, to open those doors. But if I want to work in the Vrimi aspect and the wrathful aspect, I'm going to. Sometimes when I'm working with her in the darker aspects, and I'm trying to, like, say there's somebody that's got a curse on them, and I'm trying to lift that curse, a lot of times I feed Hecate the curse, because she can consume that and use that energy, so she can consume it. But that's not for everybody. That's a very learned process. And with her, come other spirits and other guardians and other, if you may, entities, or if you want to call them deities, like the Fates or the Gorgon or the Grey, which some people call the they're known in the movies, that the Greek movies, like the Stygian witches. Those are the Grey. The Greys are these blind feminine beings that are just really wrathful and just deceiving, and you can work with that. When you're working with the Gorgon, what you're doing is you're somebody just texted me something. I think they're watching the show. I am not answering that. That's not about the show. I just lost my train of thought.
You're talking about the Gorgons.
The Gorgons are great because the Gorgons are protectors for you. So when you work with the Gorgon and you connect with Uriel, Stheno, and Medusa, because there's actually 3 sisters that are Gorgon, not just one. Most people just know Medusa, but there are actually 3. And they actually have a slight difference in look.
And so why did you choose Medusa for yourself? Was it something that you just...
I didn't choose Medusa. I use all 3 of them. My ring is a symbol of all of the sisters.
Oh, okay.
That's what that is. But in the system I work, I had to consecrate an object that was dedicated to them. So when anything happens to me magically, they put up a shield. So that they have hands of brass. Their scales are impenetrable steel. Their eyes will turn the enemies to stone. And so you call them out and have them look outward.
And so did you learn more about this from that class series that you took?
Yeah, I'm still in it. Yeah, I'll be doing that for the next year and a half.
Because the one thing that I kind of disagree with you about is to go to Google, because Google has turned into a kind of a murky place. Google. And yeah, because you're like, Google it, go on the internet if you want to know.
Go on the internet. Google is such a broad term. I'm saying research the epithets.
I know what you're saying, but I'm just saying it because, in the herb world, that's what I was told as a young herbalist, first starting out, from someone that was like, hey, if you want to see if you can use an herb, just research it online. But you know what? Anybody and everybody can put something there, and most of it is insane. Like, don't listen to the internet. And I feel like that's the same with Hecate, especially now. And I know you had talked about this in another episode, and I'm kind of mixed about it. But I liked the campy show Sabrina. I thought it was fun. But I've noticed, because of Sabrina, I see like local artisans like creating Hecate, hail Hecate, and you're not gonna understand Hecate at all by watching Sabrina, or by that's going to be the new thing to like look up. They're going to have all kinds of silly Hecate stuff, and it's nice that people are like, oh, what's Hecate? Let's learn more about Hecate. But then there has to be a refinement of knowing where to get that information. So I know you say don't go to Crooked Path, but and I'm not trying to advertise, but you're someone that I trust
Yeah.
You know, like I'm not gonna go look on Google. I'm gonna go to Crooked Path.
Well,
Sorry.
yeah, because it's available to you. I just don't. I'm exactly. Sometimes I'm my own store's biggest enemy because I try not to use this as a format to talk about the crooked path. I mean, I want to talk about Green Man. I want to talk about Panzapotheka. I want to talk about House of Intuition. I don't care. I don't. But using this as a billboard for the crooked path to me sucks. And
Yeah, but I found you because I connected with Hecate. I didn't know what Crooked Path was. I was brought there. And so to ignore that beauty is not okay too. You know, it's like, you know, I understand there's a fine line, and you know, that's great, but you know, even if it's not you, there are some, like for example, Sarita, I think, is a great place, you
oh,
know, reading Sarita.
more.
Like, you know, that's what I'm talking about, like for reference, you
Me
know, not
talking
just,
about Hecate is like a sixth grader when you put me next to Sarita or Jason Miller. I mean, those,
really?
oh my God, I go to them to learn. Those are my teachers. I mean, Sarita is my friend on Facebook, and I talk to her once a month. You know, we're
Yeah,
always
read
talking
her
back and forth.
books. Like that, you know, so that's what
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
saying. Like if people want to know about Hecate, you know, I wouldn't say go, I would say go, for me, my own personal opinion, I would say go to Crooked Path. You're going to get some good information about Hecate. Or I
Oh,
would say, you know, check
yeah.
out Sarita. What's
Sure.
Sarita's last name?
Sarita de Est.
Fast.
Yeah.
And then, you know, you've been talking a lot about Jason Miller, and how
Uh,
much you've
Jason,
learned.
Jason 150% has changed my life. I mean, more than anyone. And not even just in Hecatean witchcraft. In witchcraft is Jason. In my, you remember, I've got 30 years in this, and I started working with Jason Miller in June on June 8th, and between June 8th and now, actually June 7th, it was Prince's birthday, and from that point forward, I have learned more in those months than I have learned in 20 years before. I mean,
Wow.
he is completely, he has completely ramped up my knowledge base, my active, my working witchcraft perspectives. He has absolutely made it way more functional, way more user friendly. Just he really gets you right in there. I could not. I have my degrees of perspectives on witchcraft in general and Hecate has gone up 60% since I've been with Jason. I mean, I have backgrounds and I can talk the talk and have a conversation, but I know way more now, just in the 8 months I've been doing this. And it's just growing. I mean, my Depnons are much different than they were before. Before I
So
had
back to
Jason.
Depnon.
Yeah.
Is that something? So if someone's like, you know what, I feel connected to Hecate, you're saying, can someone say, you know what, I feel like doing Depnon, like let's do a simple Depnon.
Yeah.
And can I ask you then what you would say for them to do for a simple Depnon, because you're saying yours are more so much more advanced. So what would be something for someone just connecting?
I mean, I ideally, a black candle is good because remember Depnon, and a lot of people have this misunderstanding that Depnon is the new moon. It's actually not. It's 00 black. So it's it's before it becomes the sliver of new.
Right.
So tonight is the night. Tomorrow is the new moon. Tonight is that black time. And during that time, get a black candle. And if you don't, get a white candle, whatever. In the end of it, don't need to focus on the color. Get a candle, and preferably black, and light it. Be in your room, light it, and ask for her to come and try to connect with her, and connect with your ancestors, connect with people that are no longer in your life. Or maybe if you don't want to do that, you want to open up communication and you want to give reverence and respect. Remember, it's not specifically a time to be doing spellcraft. This is a time to basically give her reverence. It's obeisance at this point.
Honor.
Yeah, it's
honor.
and put things down if you're at home. Any of these things, not all of them, olives, wine, grape juice, bread, honey. If you're vegan, go with within the spectrum of things that you can, that, because you don't want to dishonor yourself. Some people are very strong about that, but then I know other people that are vegetarian that believe whatever they need. Some people will give chicken hearts, chicken livers. Some people will give, like again, olive oil on pretty much anything is great. Feta cheese, think Greek, baklava, lemon cake, any of these simple things, a mullet, which is a fish, or any type of fish, put that out, but you're like, oh my God, I'm going to leave this in my place. What do I do with it? Right. Well, usually what you do is after the ritual, you leave it outside to where it can be consumed by creatures of the night. But if you're outside and you're doing Depnon, you want to do your work outside, light the candle. And I'm not condoning lighting a candle in a place where there's fire, where, fire safety is important. So obviously Southern California, we can't do that. In that case, you work without candlelight, you just do it in dark. But regardless of what it is, when you lay your offering down and time has come for you to depart, you never, ever, ever look behind you when you walk away. You just don't. You have to remember that Hecate it's reverence, and Hecate is not for the mortal eye. Okay, it's not. It's you lay it down, you give her that respect, you back away, or you turn. But the minute you turn, you don't look over there. You can obviously go back. If it's in your backyard, then tomorrow it's fine. But during that time, you just want to leave it and turn around and walk away. You don't want to be like going back over there. That's
interesting that you say that, because there's been times when I'm looking at Hecate's statue and I feel like it's wrong to turn my back to her. But in this instance, that's what you need to do. Like, and they're both signs of respect, like not turning the back and then turning the back.
Yeah. Well, Depnon is also, you got to remember that when you're asking for Hecate on Depnon, also the hordes are coming. With Hecate and Depnon come the dead. The restless dead, the Impulse, the Mormo, the Gorgo, the different entities that are in the world of death. And that's not for you to see. At this time, you're doing the work, you're giving the offering, you're being in your space and doing that work for her. Then you turn around and you just walk away. And then, leave your stuff outside to be consumed or whatever. Now, obviously, if it's the next day or a day goes by, you can't leave it in your backyard, then dispose of it. You can do that. There's no rules that say you can't. You don't want food to be rotting in your house. There's certain things that you need to do that,
so you wouldn't suggest, like, let's say you have food in the house, to then bring it to a three-way cross.
You do that. That's another way of doing it. Yep.
And so, but that's not, I thought that was like the main thing of like, you have to find the
No.
three-way.
Actually, and in both what I was talking about in Jason Miller and in the new Jeff Cullen book, they tell you that sometimes you don't have that ability and you can just dispose of it. I have always, prior to Jason Miller's classes, I would take always after ritual, even in my coven, we take it and put it all up by the trees so animals could eat it.
Right.
So you work with what you have. If you want to go the extra mile and put it at a crossroad, that's a great thing. Sure. And a crossroad can be when you think about crossroads, they can usually be a T or a Y.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And this is it's the joining spot of them. In ancient Greece, they would always be the crossroad post, and they would have three masks on it to represent her triformous perspective and her looking in the directions. That's why Hecate is three, but she's also four. Hecate can be four-way. We don't work on we work on the three-way crossroad, not to confuse people, but there's a four aspect of her too, and sometimes they're not human. Most of the times, actually, they're not human when you start getting into the other perspectives or epithets of her. So, if I'm working with Hecate Drakina, she's got the head of a snake.
Mm-hmm.
There's different energies that will have different embodiments of her. So leaving something there, but you don't want to cause a ruckus in your life either. But and you can be simple with it. It doesn't have to be as drawn out. And remember that the gods are forgiving.
That's interesting you say that, because a lot of the reasons why I hear people saying like, oh, I'm not sure if I want to work with Hecate is because they feel like she's such a strong presence and she isn't forgiving.
She is forgiving. She's also, but your mom's forgiving, but she'll still smack you around when you need to be smacked around. That's what moms do. And that's what Hecate is. But do not, I had outside of Hecate completely, I had a girl coming in talking about wanting to do some love magic and spell magic today in the shop. And she's like, oh, I'll just ask Muerta. I'm like, you're going to go to Santisima Muerta to ask for a spell. How have you worshiped with her? You think you're just going to go and knock on a door and say, hi, can I have some sugar in the middle of the night? You don't have any God. That's going to piss them off.
Right.
You know what I mean? They're not a vending machine. They're fucking deities, and I think even outside of Hecate, you really have to look at that and remember that the gods are gods. They're gods for a reason. They're not to be utilized because you need some knickknack or you want some boy to stay next to you. That's not what it's about. That's fucked up, and that's where wrathfulness comes in. All gods are that way. I don't care how benevolent they are or malefic they are. They're God. They're deity. And they're not there to just knock on the door when you need them. And so Hecate is the same way. But at the same time, if you knock something over or you forget to bring the food in, sure, you should be more responsible and be like, I'm sorry, I acknowledge that. Don't be lazy. But I mean, then, lightning bolts of Zeus are not going to come down and split you in half because you pissed Hecate off tonight. It's not that way unless you're being absolutely malicious. There are the gods, especially in the Greek pantheon, the gods walk just like the humans, it's not Christian.
So my friend kind of had a question, like brought this up to me, and I wanted your opinion. She said that working with a deity is not really witchcraft, because if you ask the deity to help you with something, then you're not asking for a specific thing. You're asking for them to take care of the situation for you, and then it's left on to what they think is best. And when you're doing witchcraft of when like you're manipulating energy for your will, you're asking for a specific way, and so that is considered witchcraft, but asking from a deity is not. So I wanted to hear your opinion about that.
I think she's right and she's wrong. She's definitely right. For many years I was a witch that didn't have deity, and I caused will to change according to my rituals and what I was doing. There's nothing wrong with that answer. I believe that she's completely right, but she's also completely wrong because it's still witchcraft when you're working with deities to do that. But this is where the split happens between spirituality and causing change with will. You know what I mean? So both of those are valid ways of doing it. I call her out on the fact that Hecate is the mother of witches. Okay, specifically. You're working with Hecate. She is that. Okay, but you don't have. You can be a witch and not work with her. Sure, that's completely sorcery. Sorcery is a great act. It's a great thing to be able to do. And if that's something you're in that you do, then completely she's right. But she's wrong to say that it isn't if somebody is working with a deity. You know what I mean? You could be Christian and go to Christ and still do spell work. It has nothing to do with the name of the deity either. But you're just putting juice behind your work. And some witches don't feel they need to do that, which is completely fine. I believe that's how I would answer that question. But it's right on both counts.
Well, she was saying that the deity makes the decision of the spell, whereas
that's true.
Like, so let's say you're like, I need this problem handled. Then the deity is going to do what the deity feels like the best way is. And so then that's not exactly witchcraft, because witchcraft is saying this is what I'm doing, and this is the solution because this is what I want it to have happen.
That's true though, in that case. But also it also depends on the wordiness of it. Everything comes down to words in witchcraft. And if you want it to be an exact way, then if you want it to be, you word it in a way for the deity to make that divine choice. I could be like, I want to hex so-and-so, but I'm putting it to my deity. I'm saying, please take this upon yourself to deal with this. Some people could look at that as, oh, you're basically trying to wash your hands of a bad deed and putting it in the hands of the gods. There's some people that do that are witches. You know what I mean? There's
and is it disrespectful to tell a deity this is how I want it handled in the same way though? Like,
disrespectful? No, I don't think so. Because if I say to Hecate, I want this to go in this route, and if you feel that it should go this way, then it will. And if it doesn't, then it won't happen at all. It's a choice. You're not demanding it. You're asking for a request. And this is where your friend is also right, because an agnostic witch, and nothing to do with spirituality, causing change with will by you manipulating things and to cause change to happen in your favor, is completely an act of witchcraft unto itself, where you don't have any middle person or middle deity helping that decide. It's just tomato. You know what I mean? But she's right, as well as she's wrong, because there's plenty of people that can still do it with deity. It's all about words and how words are used in the incantation and in the charge.
And the intention behind the words.
Yeah.
And how you're using the words.
Like, when I'm using words a certain way, I've got loopholes all through my spells, because I do, because I do so much.
You're like the attorney of witches.
You have to be. You have to have loopholes, because you have to have fail safes. You
never talk about that. You could do a whole class on loopholes and spells,
on fail safes, and like, what is happening here? What do you not want it to do? How do you want this to come out? So I would say your friend is equally right and equally wrong, for sure.
Interesting.
Yeah. But so this has been a really cool little series going on here tonight. But other than that, what's going on in your world? How's Betty Blowtorch?
Me? Oh,
musically.
Musically, well, we're actually so I don't know if you saw the movie, the Betty Blowtorch movie is a documentary. It's a long name. I think it's the True Life Adventures of Betty Blowtorch. It was a documentary done. And in there was some music playing that Betty Blowtorch made before my time. And we found the song. And so next week we're going to put it out for people to hear in its entirety. And it has no lyrics, and we're not going to put lyrics with it. And it's with Bianca playing bass. And it's a really cool piece of music. And it's just, it's going to be a song in its own right. So I'm kind of excited about that. We're going to show that next week. We're working on new songs with me. So, I've been pretty stressed out about that.
Yeah.
And because of you, you've inspired me to make my siren tea. I love being, the way that I learn the best is by being inspired and then creating something. So I've taken all these classes, I've done all this herbalism work and it's all in there, but then to create something with it, that's what I enjoy the most. So when we were doing our little thing together and you were singing and you said you needed something, and then it made me create this awesome tea in your honor. And that's why I only have it at your place, and I draw the name on, like I sew the bag, I do all this stuff to make it like super special. But I use that to help my voice in both ways, in being able to speak out, to feel like I can be vocal, but also to help my vocal cords. So I've been working with your person to strengthen my my vocal cords, as well as like using the tea that I created for you. And hopefully in a couple months, we'll have some new music with me. And then we're working on something with Gacy DC. I don't know if you heard of Gacy DC.
Mm-hmm.
You have?
I've actually heard the name. It's a local thing in LA.
Yes. Yeah. So they're really cool guys. And we're gonna do something with them. So I'm working on a project with that. But so that's what's going on with me and music. What about you?
Actually, I'm actually excited. Tomorrow will be my first night jamming in 3 months. So I'm getting together with Jordan and with Rob.
Jordan, who is the lead guitar player.
Yes, who's an amazing guitar player, and Rob, who is he was in the group after your group. Rob is what he's Hecatian, and he's actually in the Jason Miller series, and he's a good drummer. So he's playing drums. His drum kit's here. So we're going to play, and I think they're bringing someone over to jam tomorrow on bass that I don't know, just to have a bass player there. Mm-hmm. So we're just going to get together for tomorrow, and for the first time after months away from doing this, and just
sing some Led Zeppelin. Been a long time.
So I think we're going to do tomorrow on the bill, I think, is Night Train. Guns N' Roses Night Train.
Oh, wow. How are you going to dirty up your voice for that?
Yeah, Mama Kin.
How are you going to do that?
I love singing Axel. I love his vocal range. So
yeah, but it's so dirty. How are you going to make yourself dirty like that?
I'm kind of dirty when I need to be, but we'll see. It's going to be the first time. So it'll be just to get that going. I'm really been in a trashy way. So I'm going to try to get, I'm going to try to get, I know he's listened to them a little bit, but I'm going to try to get them to listen to a little more like New York Dolls.
Oh, cool.
Kind of, because I would love to have something like that in the future. Lately I've been really musically in this realm where I want to put rock and roll back in people's faces. And it just really bugs me that it's being kind of not as respected as it used to be. And I know it's still there, but I really want to get involved and get more involved in that. And I've got some ideas on the works in the future that I'll probably talk to you about.
I'm so happy to hear that, because, witchcraft and rock and roll used to be hand in hand, and now it's like these two separate entities where they don't know each other.
I want that. I want rock and roll back. And like lately, and people can trash talk all they want about the music they like or they don't like. No, I'm not saying
I can trash talk.
I don't mind. I love hair metal. I love glam metal. I love lately I've been reconnecting with my glam roots, like my 80s glam roots, like Slaughter and fucking Cinderella and Great White, and I like all that music. And then I've been listening to Typo Negative lately. I've been listening to
He has an awesome voice.
Danzig
I
lately.
love that low voice
Yeah,
of his.
Danzig to like just Great White to Aerosmith to
Enough with the
rock and
Great White.
no, well, White Lion, I meant to say.
Okay.
I mean,
All the bands with the white in their name.
yeah, I just like all the hair metal of the 80s. When listening to the first Poison album, realized how fun it was to hear those songs. And I'm like, fuck, man, I just want to play rock and roll. And it was fun when I used to go down on the strip in the clubs and see all this music, and I know that if we play that music enough, people will want to listen to it and have fun. And it was a good time. It wasn't like they needed they need to have a thesis in music. And sure,
right.
It's the most
no, but
amazing
a lot of
in the
those
world.
bands you talk about,
Yeah,
they are really great musicians and they just chose to make it fun. So a lot of the ones you're talking about that are really good, they're actually because they're really good.
You know what I found out? Actually, incidentally, I did not know this. And I was talking with somebody else about rock and roll and the 80s music. I think it was Scarlett. And a person came up whose band I hated. And I never really cared about him. And that's Winger. I went to check and Kip Winger came up and I'm like, ah. And I was like, that's just not my jam. But I was like, you know what? That's not right. I'm going to listen.
Why? So, you don't have to like everything.
But I don't like Winger. But you know what I did do?
What?
I looked him up, and you know what he's doing right now?
What?
He runs a classical orchestra, and it's amazing.
Figures.
It's beautiful, and that's part of the beauty of it. So, like, I like that, but I don't want to I'm not, my jam isn't rap. I don't want to hear that anymore. I don't want to hear regurgitated, synthesized, weird voices.
Are you serious? Run DMC had actual guitar players doing their music. Like Beastie Boys was so cool too.
Those were token individual people. There's a couple of course, but I'm talking about in the culture today, pop culture today's music is so I just want to get rock and roll back. I just want to have a good time. And maybe some people won't like the versions of it that I like, but that's okay. They can fuck off or they can join me and I can like this stuff. But rock and roll is just fucking fun.
I think that they need to know what rock is to even have a conversation, whether they like it or not. Just everyone needs to pick up a guitar or a bass or drums and just see what it's about. And then, just like magic, you need to pick it up and kind of feel it and see who you are. I love all types of music. You would be surprised of who I like. But when I play guitar, I play punk rock. But that's how my creativity flows. But I love all kinds of stuff. So it's the same with magic. I love all different types of ideas of magic, but who I am flows a certain way, but you have to try, you have to be a part of it to know. I feel like I have the ability to argue with you about these things because I love music so much and I engulf it. And I feel like you do too. So it's even playing fields, but someone that doesn't even know what rock and roll is can't say anything.
They can, because whether you like the person or not, rock and roll is rock and roll. Little Richard was rock and roll, man. Little Richard had rock and roll, and Cinderella, same. Zeppelin, same. Aerosmith, same. Fucking Motorhead, same. Great bands, but even the word punk rock, people use that word so loosely. And when somebody says punk rock and then they talk to me about what they think punk rock is, I don't think it is at all. Because I was going to see Naked Ray Gun and Minor Threat in 81, and then they're like, oh, well, no effects is punk rock. And then
No effects is punk rock.
Let's see. And Mike is one of my really good friends. And I didn't even know what No Effects was when I met him.
Oh my God.
Of that band.
They've been around forever since I think the 80s.
91, 90.
Oh, okay.
It's a different time. Because when I met Fat Mike, he was my ex-girlfriend's boyfriend, and it went on for 20 minutes that I asked him, I'm like, so what do you do? Oh, I'm a singer in a band. Cool. Oh, so what do you do for a living? Oh, well, I'm with No Effects. And I'm like, oh, cool. So how long are you a hairdresser? And he's like, what? And I'm like, yeah, no effects. You mean the hair dye company? He's like, no, man, it's a punk rock band. And I looked at him, I'm like, that ain't punk rock.
Oh,
and
Sal.
that got us off to a bad start. But then I busted his balls.
So.
And Mike is very punk rock. He is the epitome of punk rock.
Yes.
That was just a ball busting moment because we're both from Mass. If I fucked with them a little bit.
Massholes.
Yeah. But that's a different time of punk rock.
Right.
That was
different
my
time. But
rock.
that's different than being a different time and then just saying like something like that doesn't make any sense. Like there are different times of everything. That goes for any type of music.
It's like metal. It's like guys that sing like Cookie Monster. I fucking hate that. Why do I want to hear that?
I don't like it. I don't like it either. I
want to hear fucking Cookie Monster, Sepultura, fucking bull. I don't want that.
Oh, shit. Sepultura.
Not into it. It's not my jam, but I respect to them. But I remember their first album too. And
someone's asking about Doors. The Doors.
The Doors. Can you imagine Sal and the gang on Sunset Strip? Give us the 70s Navy's vibes up. Renee's look last week, Laurel Canyon, anyone? Well, I love the Doors. I mean, to me, whenever I hear, there's two bands that come to mind. No, well, two vocalists that come to mind when I think of the Doors. In modern time, I always think of Ian Asbury because he has a very Jim Morrison sound. And I think so does Glenn Danzig when he slows it up and he does his Sam Hain stuff. I think they both have notes, but then you can hear notes of Elvis and Danzig.
I think so too. That's what I was just going to say.
Totally. And I love that. I love the Doors. I mean, the Doors are such an important, quintessential band. I mean, I went and saw my guitarist play with his prime band. It's not really my guitarist because he's actually in a great band that's signed.
He's your guitarist.
He plays guitar for me. He gives me the honor of playing guitar for me. But I went and saw him play one night at the Whiskey, and I'm watching him getting up there and fucking just shredding. And then he comes down off stage and I'm like, dude, you were just standing where Jim Morrison was.
Well, speaking of that,
amazing, right?
Jim Morrison wasn't that band kind of into the occult? Because you know about all the kind of occult.
And there was a lot of stuff going on. Speaking of rock and roll, would you consider showmanship a type of magic? What? What spell can you do to increase or bring out that thing? Speaking of rock and roll, would you consider showmanship a type of magic? I mean,
maybe the way connecting with the crowd and kind of having the crowd's energy.
Magical. Like, I mean, yeah, sure. I see it that way. Are you asking, is there spell work for that? For sure. That's glamoury. That's a portion of glamoury, right?
We need to remember that next time we play.
But yeah, like music is, I mean, sure, there's a lot of that. There's a lot of magic in rock and roll. There's a lot of magic, blatant ritual magic in rock and roll. I mean, we've seen it through the years, Sympathy for the Devil live at the Altamont stage. And when fucking Mick started singing it, and then the fight broke out and the guy died. Straight up. And it was an astrological alignment that was going on.
Wow.
Zeppelin always was using rock, spells and magic in rock and roll. Jimmy Page lived in Crowley's house. It became very steeped in rock and roll culture, mysticism and all of that. And I think it's really important. It goes hand in hand with rock culture. When you look at blues rock, what do you think of when you think of blues? Who is the king of the blues, really? Robert motherfucking Johnson was the king of the blues. Okay. That's where the blues started. And that started at the Crossroad with him.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That's all steeped.
And so who do you think he was with at the Crossroads? Because, they say it was the devil, but maybe it was Papa Legba.
It was. I think it was Papa Legba for sure. Or L.A. And all of his songs about the Liberty coin, the Liberty nickel, or there was a line in it where he talks about in the hem of her dress, like herbs that were sown, and it's just straight up conjure. You know,
I feel like it would be good to explore the notes when you're doing like a spell. Like I never really thought of it. I thought of being strong with my words, but I never really thought of being like, you know what, I need to hit a low E to like send that home, you know?
what's Jay's?
Jay-Z is a rapper.
Oh, I thought you said Jay's. I'm like, I don't know what Jay's is. I don't know what that is. I don't know who he is.
Jay-Z. He's from the 90s. He's still around. He's married to Beyonce. He's a New Yorker, so I love him.
Jerry, I just started learning to call her Beyonce. I was calling her Beyonce, and I didn't know who she was. And then somebody said she was
Beyonce was.
No, I had no idea. And then
there's some people that follow Beyonce like how we follow Hecate.
Seriously?
They're called the Hive.
Really?
Yeah. People are really into Beyonce.
They like her like Madonna?
Way bigger than Madonna.
No way.
Yeah. No. Yeah. The new generation. Yeah, for sure. They like worship Beyonce in a different way than Madonna.
Most pop stars have something like that. Lady Gaga has the Monsters.
Yeah, her fans are called the Monsters. I think she says her little monsters.
Okay.
But I don't think she doesn't have that kind of cultish thing. Like I feel like Beyonce has a specific like cultish kind of thing. Lana
Del Rey, is she a witch? Some of her lyrics imply that she is. Well, she has a great lyricist. I don't know.
You know, people like Lana Del Rey, but I don't like her because I don't like her stage presence. I feel like I hate, my thing with people on stage is that if I feel like I can kick your ass, then I don't respect you and I don't want to watch you play.
Well, Stevie Nicks. Well, I mean, it's granted that, Stevie Nicks proclaimed herself a witch, obviously, but, early on, what about the rest of her band? What about Fleetwood Mac, Christy McVie? I mean, singing the songs that they were singing.
I love her too.
Stevie just sticks out, and I love Stevie. And she's, she made herself known to the new generation, of course, because of that show, and I think she's right. I think she's definitely a witch, but she was also a huge Prince fan. So I got to give her props. But yeah, I mean, all these people are influenced by these other people, and rock and roll is steeped in. David Bowie very much was an occultist, I mean, and a lot of people don't realize it, but my favorite album by David Bowie was Station to Station. And the opening line of that album is the return of the thin white Duke throwing darts in lovers' eyes. I love that line. But, what is he singing about in Station to Station? What is Station to Station? Well, it's him traveling up the Sephiroth on the Tree of Life.
Wow.
And in the second line in the song, he says, I'm traveling from Keter to Malkuth.
Wow.
So Bowie was always in The Man Who Sold the World in 72, 71. He has a song called Width of a Circle. And you'd have to hear the song. And the song Width of a Circle is actually, the tempo of it is a lot like the tempo of a song that we used in Wicca called Circle Within a Circle. And it has the same tempo in the beginning. And it is like he kind of readapted it, and then it gets faster in the song. And also off that album, he quotes Khalil Gibran. So Bowie has always been involved.
You're making me think we need to have more rock and roll during ritual.
Yeah. I mean, Bowie, there's early pictures of Bowie where he is completely dressed as Crowley. And then when you look at Sgt. Pepper, the Sgt. Pepper album, if you look in the upper right corner, Aleister Crowley's face is amongst that crowd.
Really?
It's the upper right.
Wow,
and then
I never
Ozzy Osbourne. He says his name wrong, but he says his name wrong. I love him. He's being
silly. Ozzy's just being silly. I love Ozzy.
I do too, but he's talking about some real things that Crowley did in that
He
song.
is.
But he says Owly, and anybody that studies Crowley knows Crowley rhymes with holy.
I know. I always said Crowley because of Ozzy.
Yeah, well, a whole generation did, including me. But Crowley rhymes with holy. So
I only know that from being in the store.
Yeah.
Because before that, I'm like, you mean Mr. Crowley?
Yeah. But these are all important things. And I used to always to laugh about, and I love Black Sabbath. I love the first, second, third, fourth. I love them. I love all their albums. But the thing about it is,
don't you dare say anything.
Generals gathered in the masses, just like witches at black masses and all that stuff. You never hear him say anything about being satanic or worshiping Satan.
No, he's always talking about the Lord light. And all that.
Yeah, the Lord. He actually is.
Oh, Lord, yeah.
Oh, Lord, yeah. He does all that shit. And it's all about that, and fighting the dark side. And actually, socio-political structure is what that is about.
Well, NIB is one of my favorite songs, and that's Taking Lucifer's Hand. Yeah, I love that song.
Yeah. So there's some, and then Wizard, what is it? Wizard Walks By.
Fairies wear boots and you gotta believe me.
Yeah. But then there's the Wizard song.
Oh yeah, that's different.
Wizard walks by. Yeah, he talks about the wizard moving around, but there was not a lot of blatant satanic anything in their bands, and they all wore crosses.
I know, and
you never see satanic symbolism on any of them.
No.
It's just a straight up Christ cross.
But they said that they lowered the tone, like they are the first band to ever tune down, and that was to get more of that of like the notes of hell.
Yeah, well, there is actually, and Jordan was teaching me this.
The brown note. I hope not.
Not the brown note. No, there's another. There's another one that's the actually Prince talked about it in an interview, and he said it's a really important thing in music is and so did Yasmin actually, it's about three notes that they call it. They also call it the devil something, but it's an important figure of musical notation that plays in chord and makes a great sound. Getting the name of it right now, but I will come back on that with you guys and get that from him. But the devil's fifth or the devil's third or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's just a sound that registers really, low. And that is also true, when you look at Sabbath, but Tony Iommi, they did, they tuned down, but Tony was getting all that sound off his wooden fingertip.
I know.
Because he hurt himself in a factory. It was not like,
it's kind of crazy because he took like something that was bad luck and turned into good luck, because I think the day that happened was the day that they got signed.
Yep.
And or the day that they knew something great was going to happen with the band. And then that's the day that his finger gets cut off. And he could have just been like, my life is screwed. Yeah. But instead he was like, no, I got to figure this out. So
it's true. Is that an SG behind you?
No, this is my Gordon Smith.
Oh, it looked like an SG at first. I'm like, oh my God, no way. But
no, I have an SG bass though.
Yeah, those are cool.
Yeah.
Those are cool. But yeah, so all that stuff. And the early Sabbath was very jazzy.
I know, I loved it.
Some of the jazz on that was they were really jazzy musicians, I thought. And you see early pictures when Ozzy's wearing striped colored pants, and they were very not that black morbid thing all the time.
But what I like about them most is that I feel like they give people hope, because they were all poor factory worker kids, they never thought they could be anything.
That's and
awesome. Yeah. And I just, it's a great story for all those working class people that just want to get out and play and gives them a release, and then they became something.
Yeah. But my I guess what I'm just trying to say is I just want to get back and play some music. I want people to enjoy rock and roll again, even if it's a small amount of them. I just want to get like minds and just have good times, it's just rock and roll is fucking rock and roll, and it comes in all kinds of shapes.
Maybe we can do something. I mean, maybe we can add it to Ritual. I'm serious about that. I think that would be really cool to have to have rock and roll a part of ritual, because I feel like tones of music and how you use your voice and sounds really can create energy.
Yeah. All right, Mia, it is 8:15 and I have to go climb a hill. So thank you for being my amazing guest this week.
Yay. I'm the co-host.
Yeah, my co-host. That's why my co-host, not my co-host. My co-host this week. It was actually great having you. And I think we're going to be doing some cool things in the future. I've got some stuff I'll talk to you about soon.
I'm excited. I always like doing cool stuff with you.
Yeah. Definitely had a really good time to talk. I mean, getting to talk about Hecate and Depnon is really important, and really connecting with people. We didn't really do a lot of questions, but I'm totally okay with that. It's just good to have a conversation,
Well, the questions that I had, I've heard from people, and or I've been in the shop, or I've talked to people, and that's kind of why I brought those things up. I have my opinions on them, but I really wanted to hear your opinions.
Yeah. For sure. But thank you again. Thank you everybody for Betwixt the Shadows tonight. We will see Renee next week.
Yay, Renee! Thank you for letting me be here too.
And I will talk to you guys. Thank you to the Shadow crew, and everybody have a wonderful evening. This is Sal. Enjoy your Depnon. I am out of here.
Thank you.